Welcome to Life Workshop, where we discuss the forgotten basics. Hi again, we are back.
Good day, everybody. Welcome back.
For the second episode on to be sensitive or not. But before we get started, I'm going to recap a few things that we said in the previous podcast.
I'd also just like to say, I think my mom says I'm sensitive.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, moving on.
So when we say sensitive, it is a matter of, it's a choice that we make. It is all emotional. Mm-hmm. And, we have to, the reason that I'm doing this podcast, I want to see that does it make sense? We have to be sensitive or not? Because in some cases we have to be, but for some senses we want to desensitize. Mm-hmm. And this is where I'm going with this thing. When we became sensitive, we are sensitive to some subjects, for example, in this part of the world. As I said, if we say, how much money do you make? How much do you weigh? Or those kind of things. And, it becomes, it's a sensitive thing you should not talk about, which I don't exactly understand what is wrong with that. But another thing is that sometimes we have taken it further ahead that, for example, I'm just so worried to ask for something. If I want to ask, no, I'm not, because I may get a no as an answer. We have become so sensitive and so scared about hearing a no that we are not, asking a question. And frequently, I hear this, that, for example, people nowadays are very sensitive. You have to be careful with what you say. Well, to some extent, there is some element of truth to it. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, the way I have seen it, I'm not, I am who I am. I think I'm very honest and, direct. Mm-hmm. I try to be nice. As I said, I'm not going to go randomly to somebody just saying.
Tactful and respectful.
Yeah. But if somebody asks me, for example, for real, hey, do you think I have lost weight? And, if they haven't, I'm not going to lie to them. I said, I haven't noticed, to be honest, but,
But keep going. I'm sure it's going to work.
Yeah. No, but, I'm going to be very honest with that. I'm not going to lie. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to necessarily express my, thoughts randomly. At times I do. At times when I care, I do. And I think it's needed. But at times, no.
Would you ever, and this really depends on the situation, would you ever not tell somebody the truth? What if you know that the truth is really going to hurt the person?
No, I would.
Even if it,
Even if it hurts them, yes. If they are asking for it, I would. Mm-hmm. And actually, this is where I'm going. Very frequently, we hear this, if you do this, people, they get offended. I say this, we have overrated this quite a bit. Yeah. Most often, people are okay with it. Most often. I mean, think about yourself, whoever you're listening to this podcast. If somebody comes and tells you, and I'm not saying in all cases it is true, but most often, if somebody comes and genuinely tells you, for example, you ask them, hey, do you think I have lost weight? Or I don't know, something that you think you're sensitive about it.
Right.
Your age, your weight, I don't know how much money you make, or something, whatever that you're sensitive about. If you ask somebody and that someone is honest with you and gives you an answer which is true, but is not what you want to hear, would you hate them? Or would you not like it? Or would you go home and afterwards say that, what? There was some element of truth to it.
I mean, I wouldn't say you'd hate them. You might, in that moment and, in that response, you might be offended, angry, anxious, whatever it might be. But if it's a truthful, honest answer and it's something that's really bugging you, you will definitely think about it. And if it's the truth, then, I don't know, maybe you would accept it.
And this is the thing. Most often, this has been my experience, most often people are okay with that after the fact. Even maybe at the time they don't like it, but after the fact they like it, and they would appreciate it most often. And you can check, with yourself. As just do the test for yourself. What is sensitive for you? Yeah. And if somebody honestly answers you, but the answer is not something that you want to hear,
see what happens.
Then how would you feel? And then, but of course there are some that definitely are going to get offended because I'm not asking for an honest answer. I'm asking for approval. You tell me how pretty I am,
But you're not.
That was a sensitive subject, okay?
I'm going to have to lie to you.
But this is where I'm going. And, because I have had this conversation, even let's say in 10 cases, I'm just throwing this number. If 10 times you're honest, and in these 10 cases, once or twice the other party doesn't like you, what is the alternative? If you wanted to be fake and tell them the wrong answer, something that they want to hear, do you think those 10 people, they would like you more now? Again, the result I don't think will be that much different. Or it would change the dynamic a little bit. That, again, what I'm trying to get at, if you're honest, you keep the honest people around.
Yeah.
If you're dishonest, you will keep the dishonest around. And it's just like we call it karma, but this is what we are doing. If you want to have a fake life, you will have, and you will see fake, because, we all do that to each other.
It's that good old theory that like attracts like.
Yeah.
If you're going to end up being fake, you'll lose all the real people in your life. And
birds of the feather fly together. Is that the other expression? So anyway, these are some of the things that we want to be a little bit more careful again. That I would recommend again, just to be real and practice it and see what works, what happens. And as I said, you can do it as a test on your own. That what would happen, how would you feel? And often, again, as I said, and if some people they don't like you, for example, they don't hang out with you because you were honest with them. You know what? That's unfortunate. But the fact is that now you lose that friend, but you keep the friend that is okay to hear it.
Correct.
And then most likely that friend would tell you the same way, the honest answer. And this is how you see that we just grow because you get feedback. And I'm saying again, not every feedback is correct, but a feedback at least gives you a different perspective. Yep. Now, I brought this up, with, again, somebody, and he said, about this sensitivity of people, they have become more sensitive. I said, well, to some extent there is an element of truth to it, but do we have to be really careful? Well, of course, as the society advances, we want to be speaking more clearly and more accurately. But it doesn't mean that we have to be fake. There is it's a big difference between the two. So, for example, I normally put this, a lawyer has to use a lot more appropriate words when they want to talk, but because it is their profession. Myself as a physio, if I want to talk to another physio, I use proper words because that is, you can communicate and it makes sense. But so as society advances, we are doing that, which is good, but being clear and being more sophisticated in the language does not equate being fake and not being honest. Because sometimes we will say that people have become sensitive. You know what? Is it sensitive or... And it's not as much. That is what I'm trying to say.
I completely missing what you're trying to say. If you speak honest, whether it is high physio language or not, as long as it's the truth and it's the honest opinion or the honest facts.
I'm going to bring it back to the real case scenario. For example, nowadays when we speak with each other, we want to use the right words as much as possible, which in the past we didn't care as much. We would just talk randomly. Then, for example, instead of sit down, sit the fuck down or something. We don't do that anymore, hopefully, we just become more appropriate, So those are good, but it doesn't mean that by being sensitive, it doesn't mean that I have to lie. That if I don't like somebody to say, I like you, or if, for example, they are doing something wrong that I don't like, I say that, no, I like it, it's good. You don't have to do that. So the sensitivity part, if it means to be accurate, more accurate, then it's good. But if it means to be fake and not to give an answer, the right answer, then that's not good. Do that, Now, I'm going to give it a spin here. I had somebody who said that, for example, on TV, sometimes they show that the two guys kissing and we have to not say anything. I said, look, that's a different subject. Some of the stuff are fact of life. For example, the concept of some people being homosexual, it has been there forever. They have been suppressed. That's all it is. So now, if they are not, because he said that, is it needed to be shown? I said, is it needed to be shown on TV, a guy kissing a woman and vice versa? And when you say it's normal, in Afghanistan, it is not.
It is not, no.
So the norms are different. And now the concept of, for example, homosexuals, acting the way that, the heterosexuals do, and of course, that to the extent that is shown in public, it is something, yes, it's not familiar to us, but because they were suppressed. Not because it is, I don't know, we are not creating it. It was suppressed. It's a reality.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of sensitivity that, we have to be sensitive, not to sensitive. We should not have been doing that to begin with. We were doing it wrong. Now we are just getting it right. But now when it comes to the words we use, for example, some of the words obviously we cannot use, well, we want to be more accurate. That is correct. If it was a vulgar language or for something that it was with a bad connotation to it, definitely we want to remove those things. And it was because of lack of education that we used to have. Now, as we are realizing, we have to fix it. But now, if somebody goes and catches us, because, for example, once I was talking to some, and then one of the friends who is, homosexual, caught me on a word that I used wrongly. I don't even know what it was, like, not LGBT or something. I said, so when it comes that, just correct me versus punishing me.
Right.
That's not the intention, And we have,
I'm not the subject matter expert. I don't know at all.
That is the thing, and we are just talking, we are just, trying to get educated and talk. So what I'm trying to say that being sensitive about some stuff, the concept of, for example, let's say two guys kissing is not a matter of sensitivity. It's a matter of education. If it's the same level and it's not harming anybody else. This is the thing. If they are doing that, they are not harming anybody else. It has been a fact because there are some other facts existing. For example, some people are born, let's say their brain is a bit twisted and, for example, they are more violent. Right. But we cannot let you practice that because that violence is harming others. If it was not harming others, or generally harming something, then it would be okay.
It would be more accepted, yeah.
But the homosexuals are not harming you. Yeah. It just has nothing to do with you, or are not harming anybody else. So it's okay with that one. So we have to, in that sense, it's not a matter of sensitivity. It's a matter of education. We are getting their words wrong. That is what I'm trying to say. But another one, for example, is in some places that we have to desensitize now. I'm going to bring that too, because sensitivity and sometimes we have to desensitize. For example, in some countries, I should say, to be honest, I'm saying this, but at the same time, I feel disgusted to say it, but I have to. In some countries, public execution is shown as an entertainment. There are sometimes people that they go sit and watch that, and they get entertained. Yeah, to be honest, it disgusts me as I'm talking about it, but it is a fact that is because they have become desensitized about that. Now, on the other hand, we have to be sensitive about these subjects. But let's say somebody who works as an RCMP police officer or a military person who unfortunately, or an ER person, emergency, people that they face these kind of things on regular basis. They have to learn to be desensitized about this kind of things. Right. Because
it's
unfortunately
it's part of their job and they have to act in a way that
unfortunately it is a fact of life and you cannot do anything about it. So you have to learn to be more desensitized more than the average Joe. I'm not facing it as regular basis as you do. So we have to learn where we want to desensitize and where we want to be sensitive. But when it comes to the public execution, oh my God, that is something that we want to be a little bit obviously more sensitive that anyways.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, I mean, those type of things it's archaic and it's been going on for thousands and thousands of years, but obviously it's a lot less now. And yeah, it's just...
And sometimes we do some other things that you are not as sensitive about, though. I'm going to, another thing that I want to say. For example, sometimes the concept of bullying that we do, let's say online. Of course, the bullying on the street is not as much, it's a little bit more old school way. But the bullying that is done, for example, in some different ways, that or online, or for example, in society, in awards, or something that we do. Those are the things that we want to be a little bit more sensitive and not to turn a blind eye.
Right.
You know, so there are, again, we want to see the outcome of it. You know, this sensitivity that we have, does it serve us
Yeah.
or takes away something?
Yeah. And does it harm somebody? Does it cause difficulties? Does it cause anger and
So if you want to be more
suppression?
realistic, so
Yeah.
that will help us for our emotions. Again, I keep going back. The way you think dictates the way you feel. So for example, if somebody asks you how much do you weigh or how much you make money or I don't know how old you are, if you get offended, maybe you want to just think about that a little bit for real. Of course, you know, that should you get offended? Does it make sense? Where did it come from? You know, something like that. But so we have to be a little bit more objective about those way of thinking, and then it will help us to feel differently too. Now I'm going to bring another one. I had this young lady that she said that she was dating another person, in this case I should say, who is a female but identifies as male. So because she identifies as male, so she is in a straight, you know, relationship.
Okay.
So she's not homosexual, basically.
Okay.
It was interesting. And sometimes people might think, oh my God, this is a very sensitive subject and people, they get offended or you have to be very careful. You know, no, actually, I had some conversation with this young lady. And to be honest, I found her very logical. Of course, the logic at some parts, in my opinion, was twisted.
Yeah.
But she was very reasonable. She was not emotional about it. She was very comfortable. I was actually quite impressed that, you know, how comfortable she is talking about this. But as a matter, because some other people were listening to this conversation, they were so worried that where is this going to go?
Yeah.
Nowhere. It was a very actually pleasant, really pleasant conversation. And, you know, again, as I said, the way of thinking was a bit different between the two of us and the logic that we used. But
that doesn't always happen, especially if you go to topics like that where the other person will be as logical and level-headed.
As a matter of fact, this is exactly where I'm glad you brought that. I would say most of the time they are. That is exactly where I'm going. Most of the time. Yeah. It depends how you ask the question. If your question is just I'm here to prove you wrong to begin with, well, it doesn't matter what the subject it is.
You can ask about the blue sky outside.
Yeah, and I will get offended if I want to get. If you attack me,
it's
then it becomes. You know, depends where the question. No, but I was genuinely asking a question, and we had actually. I said honestly, I was just quite impressed that for such a young person to speak so
level-headed and calculated. And
yes. So this is and again, I'm repeating. Often this is the case.
Yeah.
Often this is the case. The part that becomes an argument and people get offended, I think it has more to do with the fact I'm here to prove you wrong.
Right.
And I will do anything to prove you wrong. Well, if you do that, definitely anything can become an argument. You said the sky is blue, I get offended, I'm going to fight you.
It's not, it's dark blue.
It's dark blue, yeah. But so the concept of sensitivity, when we are talking about that, I think first of all is not as much. That is one. It is not as frequent. We just make it sound frequent. We look for some unique things, you know, to say that it is happening. For example, the concept of, you know, some recently in here now it became that people would identify as boy or girl or this and that or cat. You know what? It is not that, first of all, that common. I asked, for example, it just makes the news.
Right.
For example, somebody says something that is a bit unique, then it becomes the news, but it's not popular. I should say this. Peter Mansbridge, I just remembered. Peter Mansbridge, who was a reporter, he retired, and then he was in Regina. And once I asked him this question, I said, Peter, if the lightning kills somebody, it makes the news. But McDonald's food kills thousands of people, it doesn't. He waited for a second, he responded, news is something that happened today that didn't happen yesterday. And
so maybe at some point somebody did say something about McDonald's, but that was when they first discovered it.
That is correct.
Yeah.
But then after that, it never happened because we know people die. They get overweight, they get high cholesterol. No, it's just a normal thing. You're supposed to die. I just help you. So this is where I'm going that it. So then the fact that news is not important. News is just the news.
Right.
So when we talk about, for example, there are people identified as a cat or cotton or something, well, we have had not cases forever. Right. It's not a new thing, and it's 1 in a million. Now we go find that 1 in a million, and we want to switch the whole thing to fit that 1 in a million, which that is not going to happen. But you have to be careful how to say he, she, or I don't know, they or it. Are you serious?
His, her, they, it, maybe.
We make it more complicated.
Very complicated.
And we find one case to prove our point. Not millions of cases that are okay. No, but there is somebody somewhere did something. And now we have to be careful because this will happen. No, nothing will happen.
And that somebody, that instance was somebody on a sensitive day or a bad day or a good day where it just was a reaction.
I think honestly, again, I said, we just blow things a little bit out of proportion because that is how it becomes a news, and this is the unfortunate thing. It is done very frequently with a lots of things. We make a Hollywood everything. We catastrophize
controversial
things. Because when we do that, then we get the attention, and unfortunately, as listeners, we pay the attention to the weird stuff versus to the
next.
If we would just, as far as I'm concerned, somebody that takes it out of proportion, the first thing that goes into my mind, they lose credibility in my mind. Right. And they really would become less interested in listening. Mm-hmm. But again, the podcast became a bit longer than I want. We may come back and talk one more time, but it would be a lot shorter, I promise. Okay. Again, remember, life is simple. We make it complicated. Take care.